Forced to work from home by your employer? Laid off or feeling depressed at home? Do you want to make money working from anywhere? We'll show you how to do it from your couch. It's time for another episode of the Work From Home Show. Coming to you from their homes in Austin, Texas and Tampa, Florida, here are your hosts, Adam and Naresh.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Work From Home Show. I'm Naresh Vissa with Adam Schrader. Shout out to all our homies, homeboys, homegirls, home trans, all the work from homers out there. Today we have Major Scott Huesing on the show. He is the executive director of Save the Brave, a retired USMC infantry major with over 24 years of service. He was enlisted and also a commissioned officer. His career spanned 10 deployments, and he conducted operations in over 60 countries worldwide. During his deployments to Iraq, Afghanistan, and the Horn of Africa, he planned, led, and conducted hundreds of combat missions under some of the most austere and challenging conditions. He is the author of the book Echo in Ramadi, the first-hand story of U.S. Marines in Iraq's Deadliest city. So without further ado, Major Scott Huesing, welcome to the Work From Home Show.
Well, thanks for having me, Naresh and Adam. Good to be here.
I want to start just a little bit. I know you've been doing, you just wrapped up a countrywide tour, and we'll get to that a little bit later, but I want to talk a little bit about you and your experiences in the military. You are a just accomplished former leader serving in the military. What did you learn about people, human psychology, management, and life in general?
I like to think I'm still leading, to clear that up. There was never an expiration date on my commission, and that's one of the great things about what I do now as the executive director of Save the Brave is, you're out there, you take what you've learned in the last 24 years, in my case, in the Marines, and I'm still applying that today. And I think that's an important lesson for leaders at any level in any type of organization. And I think that it's a credit to what the military gives young men and women, because I didn't start off as a '1 best-selling author or executive director of 2 nonprofits. I barely graduated high school with a stellar 1.24 GPA. I enlisted in the Marine Corps.
You said 1.24?
Yeah, 1.24. So
I want to make sure I heard that.
Any listeners that chime in, I'll give them a free copy of my book if they can beat that, if they show me their high school transcript. But it's a standing record. And I, after Desert Shield, Desert Storm, I hung up my rifle, went to college, did much, much better, graduated in 3 years. And I share that because, again, that's a testament to the discipline and, mission type focus that the military gives young men and women. And then became an officer, and some 15 years later is where I got thrust into the deadly city of Ramadi, Iraq, where I wrote my book about. But the leadership at every level from these young men and women, mostly 18, 19 years old in most cases, is really what I attribute to the success of our mission, the fact that we were able to fight day in and day out, sometimes 5, 6, 7 times a day in direct contact with a well-trained insurgent force and survive. And those young men took care of me and each other better than anything I've ever known. And, that's an important thing from a leadership perspective. I always share the challenge of a leader in those types of circumstances, under that type of pressure and the friction that surrounded us. It was very easy for me to take a basically trained Marine with very limited experience, who was probably playing high school football the year before, and now he's thrust into the deadliest city of Iraq, give him a box of ammunition and a machine gun and get him to go from 0 to 60 and attack and kill the enemy with this unbridled ferocity. But the real challenge was to know your people and to get those same individuals to go from 60 to 0 in such a dynamic environment. That was probably one of the toughest challenges. But through all that fighting and all the friction, the story I wrote about was really not just this significant piece in military history and world history, but it really became a story of people and families that supported us while we fought, and that still do to this day. And it speaks about leadership and team building and overcoming adversity. That's really how the book has been translated for leaders in the private sector and universities, all of these places I speak at nationwide. And, that is really who I wrote the book for, not the small percentage of military or veterans that make up only 0.5% of the entire American population. I wrote Echo and Ramadi for the other 99% so they could see those types of challenges through my lens and how they can apply it to their daily lives.
So you talk on Save the Brave, you talk about how strength comes through connection. Now, obviously, this is true after you get out of the military, but also there's the connection that happens, while you're in there and while you're building your team. How do you go about, how are you able to build a strong team, especially connected, whenever, you are talking about a bunch of 18, 19, 20-year-olds who, let's be honest, as an 18-year-old, my desire to, form meaningful friendships with people wasn't exactly the highest it's ever been. It was more about myself. So how do you provide and how do you create that connection?
Well, the Marine Corps especially, and I'm obviously biased, does a phenomenal job screening applicants, and we take the best and brightest into the Marine Corps. And my company, when I was a company commander at that level, we weren't some hand-selected elite special operations group, but I take it back to the leadership, guys, is that really listening to your people. And when I say listening, I mean listening at every level, from the lowest person to your peers to those above you, and really applying that, because that's a learned skill for many. For me, it's a learned skill. I wasn't a great listener my whole life. Obviously, it takes time, it takes knowledge, but it also takes an understanding that you have to listen to the people you work with. And I think that at every level, from the junior enlisted Marines to the lieutenants to my peers and seniors, I was able to listen and apply the things that I needed to make the best decision in the least amount of time that would serve the mission and help us fight and win. Because that's what we were doing. We were fighting daily in some of the bloodiest urban combat in modern history. And had I not learned that earlier on in my career from some terrific mentors, I don't think I would have been as successful as I was back then in the fight. And even to this day, any success that I have in my life, I attribute to those around me, because I like to surround myself with smart people. And I think that's really the secret to success is knowing who you can trust and investing your time, not just as a person, but as a leader, someone who's keenly aware of the responsibilities of leadership. Is you can't suffer fools. You have to surround yourself with quality people. And the people that don't serve me, or the people that are negative in my life to this day, I cut them out like a cancer. And I think that's an important thing. And that's a really hard thing that I've had to learn along the way as well, is knowing when to say no to things that don't serve me, things that don't serve my creativity as an artist, things that don't serve our nonprofit space to help our veteran tribe. Those are real tough challenges that leaders have to make, not just in combat, but in life.
So you also talked earlier about how it's important to get them to go from 0 to 60, but also equally important to go from 60 to 0. Now, people who are listening, like you mentioned, the 99%, they're not having to go from 60 to 0 in terms of like life and death, but there are a lot of people who have trouble kind of like shutting off work at the end of the day, or shutting off some aspect of their life. What are some tips you can give us about how to kind of go from 60 to 0 in a healthy way?
Adam, that's a fabulous question. You just made me think about, I've never taken that analogy and applied it to the public or the civilian sector or the private sector, whatever we want to call it. But it absolutely applies to your workload, the ability to say no once again, and really understanding that you have to do self-care. And that self-care can be in the form of time management. It could be exercise, diet. All of those things are important. And I'm guilty of this, of not applying the advice that I give sometimes too. And people that are on the public stage that people listen to, that are held in whatever esteem, as a person that gives a lot of advice, I'm hard pressed to take it. So I have to really have a very strict regimen on how I manage my time, not only for working out, diet, whatever it is, whether it's relaxation, meditation, reading. I mean, people ask me often, well, what is your daily routine? When I'm back at my ranch in California, I get up early in the morning. I don't have to set an alarm, and I go to my studio and I read, because when the sun comes up, I get that 1 hour to read what's important to me. And then I clear out some emails. I do some admin stuff for an hour, and then I go and do some physical activity. It doesn't have to be going to the gym. Maybe it's working on my ranch, working with the horses, whatever it is. I know that that is something that keeps me balanced, and it helps me move through the rest of my day, because I know that working from home, I don't have a 9 to 5. I'm always available. I'm always on call. I never know when creativity is going to hit me. So you have to be able to ratchet yourself back. And that's a tough thing for leaders. I mean, I've been in charge of up to 2,500 Marine soldiers and sailors, planning operations and responsible for their safety. But when you have to lead yourself, that's really when discipline is most important. And I don't use the word self-discipline because I don't think it exists. There's either discipline or there's not discipline. You apply discipline in your daily life and your routine, or you don't, and you get complacent. And that is what really crushes people's creativity and productivity in the end.
You, as I brought up in your bio, you're just a leader all around, and it never stopped after you retired from your service. But I want to talk, because you had a lot of successes, the operations that you conducted in over 60 countries worldwide, and you succeeded at, I want to say, hopefully every single one of them. But I'm sure you had to use not just leadership, but you had to think a lot. You had to innovate. You had to try different tactics. So how important do you think innovation is in the military? And can you give us some examples of the innovation that you used?
Absolutely. But I will first say I failed a lot. I never make any assumptions that I'm this massive success story. I failed a lot. I failed in communication. I failed in writing. I failed in finance. I failed in invest. I mean, if you don't take those risks and don't accept that failure is a natural part of what you do, it's absolutely beaten into us in the Marine Corps. But it's cliche, but you got to get back up. And, with every failure, there's ultimately going to be some successes, and really focusing on those things, but not sharing all of the successes. Like everything I did in the past, whether it's 24 years in the Marine Corps or being a best-selling, man, that's what I did. That's all what I did. I'm more focused now on what I'm doing now. What are you going to do in the next 5 years to help others, to help yourself, for that matter? Because you have to be innovative to look forward. I mean, that's the whole precept of is to be innovative. Is like you have to be forward thinking, whether it's looking 1 or 2 terrain features ahead on the battlefield so you can outsmart the enemy, or looking 1 to 2 media cycles forward to outcycle the messaging you do as a communicator, or 1 or 2 market cycles to be a great investor and look at what's going on in the world. You absolutely have to apply those tactics on research, being a solid reader, being a student of your craft. I think all of those things are keenly important to anyone's success in the future. But I tell you what, at the beginning and the end of every day, whether you're in business or entertainment or in the military, if you're not helping others, you're not helping yourself. And that's something I've found along the way. And it's vastly important to what I do in the charity circles, because I'll tell you what, just like the Marine Corps and anything you do in life, charity, it's not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be hard. It should be hard for you to give of your wealth when you'd rather spend it on something frivolous, or give of your time when you'd rather be taking a nap or screwing off. You have to understand that it's going to be hard. And this last ride for the Brave that I did across country in the year before, as I'm out there on these massive concrete highways that are these great connectors of cities and people, it was hot. It was 117 and we got rained on, and people asked me, Scott, why did you ride in July? Why did you pick July to ride? And I tell them, I didn't pick the month. The month picked me. I didn't tell my good friend and high school mate and fellow veteran Dave when to kill himself. And his mom asked me to come across the country, and I hopped on my Harley to give the eulogy last year, and we rode 5,150 miles. And this year we rode from San Diego to Tampa, and I rode 3,161 miles. And as I'm out there riding, I'm suffering. It's hot. I'm getting rained on. And that may be my legacy to this ride, is that everybody will suffer. And I say that with a happy heart, because we do it with a happy heart. But I think it's important to realize that when you're out there leading and trying to inspire the people that do great things, they should have to suffer a little bit too, to understand that there's people that have it worse than you, that need your help, that need that type of inspiration. And that was the great thing about this ride, guys, is that it really was a unifying event that exposed the best of the human condition to me in every single city, in every single stop. And I've got a ton of stories about the amazing people in this country that I met along the way.
So about that ride, obviously you were talking about your friend killing himself, which is, a horrific thing that unfortunately is happening to way too many veterans. I've seen some awareness of it brought up, but what can we do as a society to kind of help them? I mean, I know Save the Brave seems to be focusing on that a bit, but obviously that's not able to reach everybody. Kind of what would you like to see us do more of as a society?
And Scott, before you answer that, I just want to add to what Adam just asked and just let our listeners know, because we started our show when the first of lockdowns happened in March 2020. But in the year 2020, fentanyl overdoses were the most on record in U.S. history, and it continues to be a huge problem, I'm sure, amongst the veteran community as well. So I just wanted to lay that out there, that it's not just a suicide, but it's also these overdoses, which aren't counted as suicides.
Well, Dave White and I, we go back as far as high school. His mom fed me thousands of meals in high school. And then we started Save the Brave because one of my squad leaders, Simon Litke, who I wrote about in Echo and Ramadi, killed himself in 2015, and he shot himself. And, what I want to tell people is, we're not an organization that's raising awareness for veteran suicide. We're not. We're trying to prevent veteran suicide. And I think that there's a vast difference in terms. And we understand that number will never be zero. And there's statistics, 22 a day, and et cetera, et cetera. But, those aren't statistics to me. Those are my friends. Those are the Marines that were in my command and their family. So it's a very personal issue for me. And you're never prepared for when that tragedy comes into your life. And for me, it's happened time and time again. And I just can never do the math, because veteran suicide, or suicide in general, it does not discriminate against age or race or gender or rank or ethnicity. You really have to be acutely aware of the signs. And I don't have an MD or PhD on my wall. What we're great at Save the Brave is we connect veterans in a safe space, combat veterans who are struggling post-traumatic stress, and help them heal through outreach programs. And it allows them to hit the reset button when that stress level starts to rise. And the words stress and anxiety and trauma, we don't own those words. We don't own the definitions of those words in the military as first responders. Everybody deals with that in life. And how you process those pieces of trauma, how you deal with that type of stress, is very unique to every individual. But I think bringing people on board and creating an organization of inclusiveness, one that allows them to understand that there are people out there that support you. And I'll share one story this year. As I rode through North Dallas, I rode into town, and as I'm going to Marty B's place in Bartonville, I had 85 motorcycle riders behind me, veterans, cops. There were cop cars, first responders. We're running red lights for 45 minutes through North Dallas. And I looked in my rear view mirror at one point, this tiny piece of glass, and I could see this stream of bikers behind me and the red lights flashing and the cops whizzing by me. And I thought to myself, this is support. To any veteran or anyone out there dealing with stress or trauma in their life, you got to know that there are groups out there, if you're willing to connect and put yourself out there and get outside of your comfort zone a little bit, they're there to love you and support you and help you move forward in your life.
I want to go back to what you were saying a little just before we started this line, and that was when you were talking about the importance of empowering the people in your group. And my question to you is, how can you as a leader both empower people and tell them you want, all of their ideas, but also still hold your position and say, you know what, I like your ideas, but we aren't going to use yours, and kind of hold that balance of accepting everybody's input, but also rejecting possibly a lot of that input?
Oh, it happens constantly especially in the nonprofit space, whether you're seeking donors or events. I mean, you kiss a lot of frogs in this business, trust me, and everybody's got a great idea, but ideas are just that. If there's no wherewithal put behind them, if there's no 5 W's or planning put behind them, you just have to say like, hey, that's a great idea. Come back to me when you've developed it and it's ready for action so we can make a decision. I make people in my network, friends, family, whoever it is, I make them force me into a decision. But I also let them know that I'm not going to do the work for them. And that in and of itself is empowering, because I refuse to do the work for them. They have to do the work. And if they want help along the way, we have resources to give them. But at the end of the day, the great ideas that get developed that we can put into action, I can make a decision on that says, as simple as an email, it says, yes, proceed, or no, develop. Those are the decision points I need to be placed in, because at my level, if I'm not flying at the 30,000 foot level and I get dragged down at ground level, I'm not effective. I'm just not. And that's something that leaders also have to understand, because if you get too distracted by all the great ideas, nothing ever gets done. It's just a fact, whether it's in work or nonprofit sector, anything you do in life. And it's not to say you can't be great at a lot of things. You can absolutely be great at a lot of things, but focus on the important ones first, and then also prioritize them to be successful.
That's Major Scott Huesing, Executive Director of Save the Brave. The website is savethebrave.org. Also, check out his book, Echo in Ramadi. It's on Amazon, but the website is Echo in Ramadi, Ramadi, like Ramada, except with an I at the end, echoinramadi.com. Scott, any final thoughts you want to share with our listeners, or anything else you want to promote?
I just want to say thanks for having me on the program, guys. And I'll leave you with this. You don't have to have fought in the Deadliest City or worn a uniform to serve. Again, you can serve in your own capacity. You can go to savethebrave.org and click and donate. We're a privately funded organization. Everything we do would not be made possible without support from people and listeners of your show. If you want to find out more about me or the book, you can go to Amazon, order a copy of Echo in Ramadi. A portion of the proceeds go to Save the Brave. So you're not only getting a bestseller, but you're also going to donate to Save the Brave, because that's my charity too. I give to my own first. And you guys can make a difference and an impact out there. I just want to say thanks, everybody, and thanks to you guys for having me on the show.
Scott Huesing, thank you so much for coming on our show. A truly inspirational story. Keep up the good work. To all our listeners, check us out at workfromhomeshow.com. You can find all of our previous episodes there. That's www.workfromhomeshow.com. If you have any comments, thoughts, questions, email us, hello@workfromhomeshow.com. You can reach out to us on social media. We are everywhere. Follow us, like us, and please leave us a review on whatever podcasting platform you utilize: Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, iTunes. We'd greatly appreciate your review. And until next week, keep on working from home.